Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Colleen, but for those of you that have stuck around here with me for the last 2 years, I really appreciate your continued support and hope that I can continue to bring you wonderful things that might be useful to you in your everyday kitchen. So today I'm doing something a little special. It's a simple recipe, but it's special for the time of year. Nobody really celebrates Valentine's Day anymore, but it's nice to have a little something, a little reminder of days gone by maybe. And I used to always bake up cupcakes or cookies or something for the kids to take to school for Valentine's Day, but the gray hair says that I'm way past those days of being able to have an excuse, having used the kids as an excuse to bake up something sweet. So I'm just going to throw that aside and say, why isn't it okay for us to have a sweet treat for Valentine's Day? I have the things I need on the counter, and I'm going to gather the first part of them up over here, and we'll get started on this quite simple recipe that doesn't take any time to put together. And we're going to ice up these cupcakes after they've cooled, and we will have something that we can share with family and friends, or someone who you may want to be family or friends. So I will see you back here right after this. So as with most cake recipes, you have the dry ingredients and the wet ingredients. And today I'm going to start by measuring the dry ingredients into a bowl. And I need 1.5 cups of flour. And I'm wondering if any of you have anything that you do that's special for Valentine's Day, or whether it's something that you even recognize at all. I'm going to try to be mindful, because now I've measured these out a couple of times and lost my space because I was busy talking. This is a 1/2 cup measure, and that is 3. So I am finished putting the flour in there. I'm going to add a cup of sugar. Oops. Oh boy. I'm going to add a cup of sugar. That's a 1/2. 1 cup. I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup of cocoa to this, and my cocoa is a bit lumpy, so I think I'm going to run it through a sieve and make sure that I get all the lumps out of it. Yeah, cocoa can be one of those things that gets lumpy, so I don't want to have a lumpiness in. I don't want to have lumpy cocoa. So here we go, there's 1/3 of a cup, and I'm just going to run it through the sieve to make sure that I'm getting all the lumps out of it. Otherwise you end up with these little dry pockets of cocoa inside your cupcakes, and that is not pleasant at all. And as you can see, that didn't take any time at all. And now I need 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and I have 1/4 teaspoon here, so I'm going to do that twice. And I need 1/2 teaspoon of salt. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Now I'm going to measure that into the teaspoon and do 1/2. And if you notice, I'm measuring to the side because salt can get away on you, and it's hard to pick salt grains out of something like that, so better to do it to the side. So now I'm just going to give this a good stir together. Make sure that the ingredients are well incorporated. And then we'll be ready to move on to putting the wet ingredients together. Now for the wet ingredients. In my measuring cup, I measured out 1 rounded teaspoon of instant coffee. Now you could just use brewed coffee that was at, you know, warm, not at room temperature. You want it to be a little bit warm, which is kind of the unusual part of the ingredients maybe. And somewhere I put my tablespoon, and we need 1 tablespoon of white vinegar, which I'm going to measure carefully to the side, because that can get away on you pretty quickly too. And 1/3 of a cup of oil, and you can use olive oil in this, which is, you know, got a really good mouthfeel in baking. Or in this case, I'm using vegetable oil, and I'm going to add 1 egg. This is a large egg, and 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And it's another thing I probably should measure to the side, because it can get going pretty quick as well. There we go. I'm going to mix all these ingredients together just with a whisk. Make sure that everything's really well incorporated. And now I'm going to dump the wet ingredients into the dry. There we go. Get everything organized here, and just dump it right in. And now I'm just going to stir it in. And you don't want to overmix this. Think biscuits or something that you don't overmix, or muffins. You just want to have this mixed together, and it's okay if it still has some little lumps in it. You just want to get really everything wet, and that is about that. I'm just going to use my spatula and scrape down the side. Make sure I've got it all in there and the bottom, so there's no dry surprises in the bottom. And that is ready to go. So that didn't take much time. So now I'm going to grab my muffin tins and liners, and we will move on to getting these ready for the oven. And I should say that I'm going to set my oven at 350 degrees. I haven't done that yet. I should have been on the ball there. I'm going to go do that first. Then I'll grab my muffin tins and liners. Now I found these cute little muffin or cupcake liners at the dollar store. And they're kind of interesting because these inside in the bottom, they're actually almost like waxed. So it'll mean that the cupcakes will come out of them really easy. And that would be a treat also. So these need to be filled about 2/3 full. They have a little ruffled edge on them, so that it adds to the occasion, I think. And I'm going to use my ice cream scoop and scoop them about 2/3 full. I don't know how many of you know all of the story of Valentine's Day. Maybe while we're making the icing we could have a chat about what we do and don't know about Valentine's Day. Whoops, that was a messy one. I guess I'll have to eat it. Yes, try and get it into the liner. That would be good. And I'm going to do that with the rest. I can remember when my kids were little going to school, and we would have to go out and buy those packages of Valentines so that they could exchange them with everybody. And when our daughter started school, her class size was so big that we had to buy 2 packages in order to have everyone in her class be able to get one. And she was meticulous. She's got a very kind heart, and she wouldn't leave anybody out. Even though there was a couple of kids in her class she really didn't get along with, she made sure that they got a Valentine. It was really important to her to do that, not to leave anybody out. and I treasured her warm heart, which she still has, for thinking about compassion for other people. She's still very, very compassionate, and I appreciate her for that. So they would round them up, and the teachers made a big deal about making containers for them to each get all of their Valentines delivered either to their desk or somewhere in the classroom, and they would make like a little mailbox that the kids got their Valentines in. And so you would go around with your Valentines in the classroom, and you would fill up everybody's mail so that everybody that day got mail. And some of the cards were just so sweet. Now, the recipe says this will make 12, but I notice here that I've already made 12 and I have some dough left over. So I'm just going to grab a few more liners and fill them as well. So yeah, I just picked up these baking liners at one of the dollar stores. And these are just a little different on the outside. I put cake batter inside one of these, so I'm just going to clean that up. So yeah, I'm not sure what they're doing for kids these days, whether they do anything around Valentine's Day, because we don't have kids that we need to prepare Valentines for. But it was certainly an exciting time at school because we got to share and had an opportunity to share with our secret admirer or be a secret admirer, and so the occasion definitely brings back fond memories for me. Okay, I think we're good here now. I don't want to overfill these and have them come up too high in the papers, so I'm just going to double check and see if any more of them need a little more. That one right there could use a little more. And that's it. Now I'm going to put these into a 350-degree oven, and when they're baked, I'm going to bake them about 20 minutes in the oven, and you could test them with a toothpick, but you should be able to just tap on the top of them. If your finger makes a dent in the top of the cupcake, then it's not ready yet. You need to give it another minute or two. But if it bounces back, then the cupcake is ready. So these are a little smaller. They might take a little less time. So I will be checking them starting at 18 minutes. And when I bring them out of the oven, I'm going to leave them in the pans for 5 minutes just so that they can firm up a little bit before I move them onto a wire rack. So I'll bring you back when they're coming out of the oven. Here I am back, and these cupcakes are just perfect. I'm happy with the amount that I put in them because it brings them just to the top of the paper. And now I'm going to go to work on the buttercream frosting that's going to go on top of this. And to start with, I'm going to need a cup of butter, and this butter is room temperature. I took it out of the fridge this morning, and I've just let it sit on the counter for the I don't know, I think it's been about 3 hours. So you don't want it to be melted or too soft, or it won't hold its shape. And I'm going to get my mixer, just my handheld, and I'm going to mix this butter for about 3 or 4 minutes until it's really almost white, really creamy. Every now and then I'm going to stop what I'm doing, and I'm just going to scrape the sides down, because the butter tends to creep up the sides of the bowl. And we want it all to be thoroughly mixed. So I'm just going to scrape it down, and I will go back to mixing. Now I've managed to get that mixed up pretty good, and I am going to start on the rest of the ingredients. So I'm going to need 3 cups of powdered sugar. I'm just going to move my mixer out of the way for a minute. Powdered sugar can tend to also have lumps, and I don't want to deal with the lumps. So I am going to sieve it in there. There's one. And two. And I think I'm going to need to get into this other bag here. And I will put the third one in. Let's see if I can trick this out. I feel like this is dangerous. You know, powdered sugar. It gets all over everything and it goes where it pleases. So let's see if we can't make this a little tidier. Well, not really. Ah, there we go. And I'm going to put that in there. And I'm also going to add to this about a half a cup of cocoa. And I'm going to do this sitting at the same time with the cocoa and the icing sugar. And get all the lumps out of everything. So that we get a nice smooth frosting. Because we're going to pipe this frosting. So we want it to be nice and smooth. I just need another spoonful in here. And there we have enough cocoa. This makes for a really chocolatey mix. I'm going to add to that 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And the salt, and that's why you always measure away. The salt just helps to bring out the flavor in the icing, and you'll be happy that you did that. So I'm going to sieve that in. Just takes a couple minutes, and it's totally worth doing this because you'll be glad you did that. You don't have to worry about any lumps in your frosting, because then it makes the frosting not come up evenly. Yeah, it's just not a good scene. And yeah, that's me. Me with the icing sugar. The powdered sugar, I tend to get it everywhere. Maybe if I slowed down a little bit, that might help. But there we go. We're getting there. Got everything in there thoroughly mixed now. And I'm sure glad that I did, because I don't know if you can see these big lumps in here or not, but there's some big lumps that we're going to have to crush down and get them through. There we go. Again, it doesn't take very long, and it's a step well worth taking. Now, I'm just going to, what did I do with my spatula? I'm just going to bring the sides of this down. Make sure I have all the butter towards the center. I'm sure that there are lots of you out there who can do a much tidier job than I'm doing right now. And I'd love to say that it's just because I'm filming it that it's such a mess. But that wouldn't be the truth. I can make a mess with powdered sugar any day. Now I'm also going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla to this. We just want, you know, all the flavors to come through and be really delicious. And I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of whipping cream to this. And that should do it. And then I'm going to go back to beating it. And I'm going to beat it for another 3 or 4 minutes. You don't want to over mix it either, because then it would get a bit runny. But you definitely want it to be mixed well. Just move some of these things out of the way. And I'll get started and I'll bring you back when I'm finished. You should start this off on your lowest setting on your mixer too. Otherwise you're going to have powdered sugar everywhere. Well, that's finished, and this is looking wonderful. I'm just going to move my mixer out of the way, And I'm going to put a few of these things away and get these in front of me so we can get frosting them, and I'm going to wipe up some of the mess that I've made. Now I'm going to get to work frosting these, and I've one of these disposable, it's the name brand Wilton bags, and this is a M1 star tip. It's a bigger one, and I've just folded down the top and put it inside this glass so that I can fill it a little more easily. And I tend to always muck this up. Maybe that's why I don't enjoy baking as much as I do cooking, because well, first of all, I haven't maybe practiced it as much, but I always want things to come out beautifully, and I can always manage to make baked items just a mucky mess. And, oh, this is going in there quite well. And there should be enough buttercream here to do up these. Although keep in mind that I did use smaller containers, but it should be relative, I think. And if not, my husband will probably just take the ones without icing, honestly, and break them up into a bowl and put some cream on them and eat them that way. Now I'm just going to pull up the edges. And now I'm going to work this down in the bag until I get it to the bottom. And you can pick up these disposable bags. I think I got these at the Walmart. And I'm going to prime it or burp it here. Make sure that it's coming through. I'm just going to give the top of the bag a twist because it gives me a little something to hang on to. And then I think I'll move you a little closer to the action so that you can see what I'm doing here. So I'm going to just move this up here, and I'm going to start off on the outside, and I'm just going to squeeze and go around. Feeling a little shaky today, and around, and stop in the center. And I'm just going to repeat this process just all the way around, and just carry on until I have them all finished. And then I will put them on a plate so you can see what they look like. So there we go, folks. That is the finished cupcakes. If you're counting, there are 2 that didn't make it onto the tray. They will be eaten. They just didn't fit on the tray for this purpose. And I will show you in a moment what they look like when we go to eat them, because you're probably wondering about the crumb of the cupcake. So I'll let you know what that looks like. Now, here we are. This is the little cupcake, one of the ones I have left over. And I'm just going to set it down. And these are really coming out of these little muffin cups really well. Now, question, how do you eat your cupcake? Do you just full on eat it like this? Or do you break the bottom half of the cupcake off and put it on the top and make a little sandwich out of it? Let me know in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, folks, I hope that you'll subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Give it a like or a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And I hope that some of this video is able to bring back some memories for you and your days when you might have been handing out Valentine cards to your friends. If that's something you still do, please let me know that as well. Looking forward to it. Thanks for coming along, folks. I really appreciate it, and I will see you next time.